school, we're actually the second educators in your children's life because you are the first teachers. And we want to work in partnership with all of you because we can't do this work alone.
Que su voz cuenta y que si nos unimos podemos lograr grandes cosas para nuestros hijos.
I love the diversity of the school district. Whether you know it or not, this district speaks 83 different languages.
To know that the administrative offices, they have my back. Not only my back, but they have my child's back.
Every child, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of income, regardless of need, every child deserves to have their needs met.
No one person can do it alone. The teachers can't do it alone. Administration cannot do it alone. It's going to take the parents, the community.
I'm very thankful for the partnerships that we have with our communities in both cities that represent our school district. We always ask the question, how can we even do this better? And I think that's where community schools come in because that takes us to the next level.
All right, welcome to the November 16th meeting of the Folsom Cordova Unified School District Board of Education. Superintendent, will you take the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Clark?
Here.
Mr. Huey?
Here.
Miss Larrett?
Here.
Miss Lofthouse?
Here.
Mr. Reed?
Here.
All five are here. Thank you.
All right. We will be going into closed session for any of the following matters: student matters, employer-employee relations, conference with legal counsel regarding litigation, conference with real property negotiators, or personnel matters. Is there anyone in the public or online who wants to make a statement regarding closed session before we enter? Nope. All right. Then we will recess to close session, and we will be back at 6 p.m. sharp for open session. We are in recess. If you would please join with me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I have a broadcast statement. A broadcast and recording is being made at the direction of the board, and the broadcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. Folsom Cordova Unified School District Board Policy 1313 promotes mutual respect, civility, and orderly conduct among employees, parents, and the public. We will treat staff, parents, and members of the public with respect and expect the same in return. If any member of the public uses obscenities or communicates in a demanding, loud, insulting, and/or demeaning manner, the board will calmly and politely admonish the person to communicate civilly. Public comments during board meetings are an important component of public engagement and transparency. Members of the public will not be permitted to yield their speaking time to another member of the public. All written comments submitted by 3 p.m. today to the board have been read. Per the Brown Act, the board is not allowed to enter into a two-way discussion on any matter that is not on the agenda. Superintendent, will you take the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Melajor,
Here.
Mr. Merrill,
Here.
Mr. Clark,
Here.
Mr. Huey,
Here.
Ms. Larrett,
Here.
Ms. Lofthouse,
Here.
Mr. Reed.
Here.
All are accounted for. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item 5, reporting out of closed session. Superintendent?
Yes, the board took action in closed session on 2 topics. The board unanimously approved an agreement with a probationary certificated employee number 616545 in exchange for resignation effective November 7th, 2023, in a lump sum payment in the amount of 3 months' pay. The second action, the board unanimously approved an agreement with a classified employee, number 616059, in exchange for resignation effective November 6, 2023, for a lump sum payment in the amount of 1 month's pay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 6, adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Motion by Board Member Clark. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Merrill. Superintendent?
Mr. Melajor?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Huey?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
All right, item 7, special presentations. We don't have any this evening, so that takes us to public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on any item that's not on the agenda. If you are here to speak on an item that's on the agenda, there will be public comment during that item on the agenda. However, because it might be slightly confusing, there is an agenda item on Measure M, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, but because that's a fairly narrow discussion on that agenda item, we will be taking all of the public comments regarding Measure M for the folks that are in the audience tonight during public comment. However, we're going to first start with a few cards that is not related to Measure M, so folks can make their comments and potentially leave. So we'll start with Summer Clayman. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Summer Clayman, and I'm a student at Vista Del Lago. Thank you for your time and attention. I wanted to speak on an issue that I've been researching for a while, the volume of performances and music being played during lunch at Vista. I personally love the music and live performances. However, I think this is a problem that needs to be addressed district-wide. Lunchtime performances are so loud that they disrupt students in class who are trying to learn. Students eating lunch at the outdoor tables have to shout in order to hear each other. During 6 different 30-second samples of music performances at Vista, the noise averaged at 112 decibels and reached a max of 122 decibels. The samples were taken from approximately 15 feet away at the nearest tables. This decibel range is similar to that of a professional concert. According to the CDC, noises above 120 decibels can cause immediate harm to your ears, and noises above 100 decibels can cause damage within half an hour. Currently, not every school in the FCUSD district has live performances at lunch. However, several do, and if implemented, a district limit would be helpful to prevent students at other schools from having the same issues that Vista students are having. The FCUSD district should set a 100 decibel limit on live performances and music played during lunch to create a more comfortable and enjoyable learning environment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next speaker, hopefully I can read this. Small print. Jesse, actually, it looks like a group of students. Jesse Tong, Varsna Bandhu, Ridiku Busani, Dezu, and Alvaro Chavez. I apologize if I mispronounce those names.
Mr. President, before the speakers start,
Yes.
are we still recognizing students and giving them the extra?
4 minutes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah. All right, welcome.
Good evening, FCUSD, superintendent, and members of the board. Today, we are here to discuss an issue that may be uncomfortable. It's something that's often avoided in conversation, glazed over, or deemed taboo, but it absolutely should not be. Our group from Vista Del Lago High School is here today to talk about the availability and quality for menstrual products in school bathrooms. This topic of menstrual products in school bathrooms is not only a standard of health, but also a basic right. Just like how toilet paper is necessary for hygiene of the entire student body, menstrual products are also absolutely necessary. However, people who menstruate in middle schools and high schools throughout the Folsom Cordova district struggle with low quality and limited stocks of menstrual products, fostering feelings of shame and embarrassment. This problem breaches not only also on emotions regarding the topic, but on basic health and hygiene. Dispensers, which are often empty and contain low-quality products, subject users to cases of serious reproductive and urinary tract infections or diseases, and could possibly lead to even worse cases of pelvic inflammatory disease or toxic shock syndrome. Because of the rights to health of my fellow students, we are here today to ask for greater access to affordable but high-quality menstrual products and greater funding to be directed to this issue.
We recognize that there are measures put into place to improve accessibility to menstrual products in schools, such as the Menstrual Equity for All Act of 2021, that requires all public schools in California to provide an adequate supply of menstrual products, specifically pads and tampons, for free in all bathrooms. At Vista, there are menstrual product dispensers present in every women's bathroom and one in men's bathroom. Yet, these are rarely stocked, meaning that students do not have the free and easy access to products as guaranteed by the California law. The trends seen in our school may also reflect those of other middle and high schools of our district, meaning that the law is not being followed by our district and the board must take action. 1 in every 7 women in California between the ages of 12 and 44 live below the federal poverty line and have inadequate access to menstrual hygiene tools and education. In the U.S., 1 in every 5 menstruating teens struggle to afford period products. 2 in every 3 feel stressed about the poor accessibility to these products in their school. And 4 in every 5 miss class time or knew someone who missed a class time due to a lack of access to these products. Many students rely on the products that are supplied by our school district, yet we have noticed that these products aren't always accessible. This especially has a large effect in education for youth. In a survey we conducted with students and teachers at our school, we received 151 responses, with more than half of them which indicated that the accessibility of menstrual products is a big issue.
We believe that education and menstrual products are a basic right. Though there is much to be improved when looking at both of those rights, we need to level the quality for both. Increasing the accessibility to menstrual products can also increase our quality of education. Because a significant portion of our population, including students in our district, experiences period poverty, it is essential that there is better accessibility to these products. And we must lift some pressure off of students wherever possible when they're already focused on learning and other functions of livelihood. We can also only be assured that the district is prioritizing safe and healthy learning environments when students truly learn better, when students don't have to worry about accessibility to these menstrual products.
Another issue is the quality of these products when they are available are poor. Our survey results indicated that both the quality and perceived quality of these products are below average, discouraging students from using them when necessary. One anonymous respondent stated that the products were like cardboard and not good quality, and another stated that we need different sizes of pads and a better quality of these pads. Our group was able to find pads of better quality as cheap as 13 cents each, and for tampons, 17 cents each of better quality. And these same products can be provided at an even cheaper price when bought by the district. Given the funding that the district has, we request for better quality products that provide an adequate amount of protection.
It's also important to keep in mind that menstrual products aren't a luxury but a necessity, as it concerns basic biological functions of half the population. So, similar to how toilet paper is always accessible for students to use, menstrual products should be too. There is just widespread apathy and ignorance about the subject, which stems from a lack of discourse and education. Many don't know and don't care to know, and thus dismiss the issue as frivolous. Even as a male, someone who doesn't menstruate, I'm still capable of human empathy. and thus find this to be a human issue, not just a women's issue.
Although the quality of menstrual products we are supplied with is an important issue, our main concern is that there isn't adequate accessibility and availability of menstrual products in our middle and high schools. We request for the board to recognize this issue and dedicate more funding to supplying schools with these basic products. The topic of menstruation and menstrual products has remained taboo for far too long, and if this continues, we risk the well-being of our community. This is no longer just a one-sided issue. This is an issue which involves everyone. Lack of education, lack of funding, and lack of provisions threatens health and basic hygiene. And without this, there can be no education. Periods aren't just punctuation. They are a part of something much bigger than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. The next speaker is Meadow Castaneda. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Meadow Castaneda. I'm a senior from Vista Del Lago High School. I'm here to follow up on a speech given at the last board meeting by my classmate Braden about recognizing the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day throughout the entire FCUSD district. So, my dziadek is one of the best cooks I know. He is Polish, and one of the biggest ties to my Polish heritage is referring to him as dziadek, the Polish word for grandfather. Growing up, I learned so much about my Polish culture through the kielbasa and pierogis that he made. And while I am Polish, I myself am also an indigenous person with mixed native roots in Central America. This part of my identity is just as important as my dziadek and his cooking, yet despite this fact, I have no ties to that culture. The lack of connection stems from the history of colonization, where indigenous people were cut from their land and culture due to the arrival of European settlers. Even now, I struggle to identify with this part of myself because I too have been cut off from my heritage. Even now, I'm speaking here today in support of this Native American community. I must recognize that my experience as an Indigenous person should not overshadow the voices of so many Indigenous people, local or otherwise, who are still closely linked with their cultures. While I'm not trying to speak for all Native people, I bring up my own Indigenous roots to emphasize the fact that recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day would have on me, in addition to countless other people with Native heritage. As November is Native American Heritage Month, I believe that this month is the perfect time to acknowledge Indigenous Peoples Day, now and in every future October in this district. Only by better understanding our past can we build a better future. So by supporting the celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day, we hope to respect the culture, sacrifices, and presence of Native Americans. By having the entire district recognize the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day, we can take a vital step in supporting Native American students, such as myself, while also helping our students and faculty learn more about Native culture. This change would help me and so many others feel seen. It would give us more opportunities to connect with our culture and explore parts of our heritage that often get disregarded. Hopefully, I can one day connect more with this part of me. And I feel that by advocating for Indigenous Peoples Day, I am taking the first step. A step for myself, a step for the district, and a step for Native Americans in this country. This change will greatly impact the lives and worldviews of students on FCUSD campuses. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Josie Buswer. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Josie Bizart. I'm a Vista Del Lago High School senior, and I'm here to speak with my classmate Meadow, who just spoke in support of Indigenous Peoples Day. So I went to Empire Oaks Elementary School, and one of my fondest memories was in 5th grade when we had an entire unit on the 13 colonies, the Pilgrims, and Thanksgiving. In 5th grade, we were taught about the Native American named Squanto, who kindly shared corn with the Pilgrims, allowing them to survive the harsh New England winter. As a thanks for the natives' generosity, the Pilgrims invited them to a great feast, which we now celebrate as Thanksgiving. And this is a story that hundreds of students have been taught, and for years this was all I, myself, knew about Native people. And yet, after 6 years of schooling, this story began to seem a bit incomplete. This year, I took Ethnic Studies, which is a new class at Vista Del Lago High School, and I was finally taught a more complete version of the Thanksgiving story. I learned about how the Pilgrims regarded the native people as lesser beings. They were not thanking the natives for giving them food in a time of need, which is what I was taught what the word Thanksgiving meant. Rather, the Pilgrims were showing thanks to God, not the natives. And as for the kind native named Squanto, who spared the Pilgrims corn, he was actually a slave, taken from his home and then forced to act as a translator. I feel betrayed by the fact that this truth was never really brought up until now, so far into my high school career. While this story was touched on before, it usually ended up being simplified and presented in an idealized way, one only in elective class, a class I almost didn't take that I was finally taught about such an important yet neglected part of our history. I am pushing to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day throughout the district so we can start normalizing the culture and lives of Native Americans, not to change the curriculum taught to elementary school students. At Vista today, when we conducted a survey about Indigenous Peoples Day, 21% of our respondents didn't know what Indigenous Peoples Day was. And if my classmates don't know what Indigenous Peoples Day is, it leads me to wonder how much they know about Native people, their culture, and their history, and how much of their knowledge stems from an incomplete picture of history. By celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day, we can finally start bringing these more complete versions of history to light, and this day can help teachers and students to start talking about the truth of Indigenous people's history. Even if that truth is difficult to handle, it is time to begin the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jason Williamson. Welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I stand before you as a concerned member of our community and an individual who deeply values the separation of church and state, especially within our public schools. The recent Supreme Court decision in Kennedy v. Bremer and all the seeming rash evolution of school policy has me worried as I look to bring children into this world. While I respect the court's decision to uphold Mr. Kennedy's right to personal religious expression, I'm here to request that our district take proactive measures to ensure that such expressions do not inadvertently influence our impressionable students. It is one thing for an individual to hold and express a personal belief, but entirely another when those beliefs are displayed in a setting where young minds might perceive them as an endorsement of expectation. Our schools should be places where religion is taught objectively, much like a history lesson, allowing students to understand diverse beliefs that shape our world without feeling pressured to adopt any particular viewpoint. It's crucial that we avoid situations where a student might see a teacher or coach engaging in religious practices and, out of admiration or respect for that authority figure, feel compelled to align with that specific belief system. Therefore, I request we modify our guidelines and create a more clear guideline with respect to the rights established by the Kennedy case, also to ensure religious expression by staff that do not cross the line into areas where they might be perceived as endorsement or influence. This is not about suppressing individual rights, but about ensuring that our educational environments remain objective and unbiased. Thank you for your time and consideration. I trust that our board will take the necessary steps to uphold the integrity of our educational environment.
Thank you. All right. That was the last comment card that I had that did not involve SFID 3. Is there anybody else that was looking to make a public comment on anything that's not related to SFID 3?
I actually had a card for public comment as well.
Oh.
There should have been for both. As you're gonna man.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Welcome.
So I will come forward. I'm actually James Garcia, a resident of Rancho Cordova, and I'm here to talk kind of about what happened at the last meeting where you talked about our design guidelines for our schools that are supposed to be getting like a facelift. That's not that one.
No, that would be part of the SFID 3 conversation.
Are you talking our current schools?
Yeah, our current schools.
Our current schools.
Oh, current schools. Oh, all right, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's what I'm saying,
Sorry.
our current schools.
Sorry.
We're supposed to be getting a facelift on several of our current schools in Rancho Cordova. Yeah. They're neighborhood schools. They don't need to have all the bells and whistles that has been put forth before this board. with having glass walls, having murals everywhere. It's a misuse of our funds. There's already a limited number of funds. The schools are being re-facelift with like a $10 million budget. That's way too much money to have a facelift. We want the educational needs that we want. We want technology implementations, having proper computers, iPads, whatever we need to instruct the students, not a look of a building. Don't want to have murals, leave that up to the school. Let the kids that actually graduate from that program design that mural. If you're going to have a mural, don't waste it on a facelift. There's other means that we can use. We don't need glass walls because those walls will break. Then we have to repair them. Again, a misuse of our funds. We don't need that style. We want the basic safety. We want perimeter fences put back in so that way we don't have transients that go onto our campus. We don't want to have drug paraphernalia that's in our parks right now, creeping out where our kids are going to be harmed by that. That's the type of needs that we want for a facelift. We need educational technology, better suiting for that. We don't want the bells and whistles, so to speak, of murals and glass walls. It does not serve the student. So, thank you.
Thank you. I guess it's hard to tell online if there's anybody that has an item that's not. There's no hand. Okay, that makes it easy. All right. We'll switch over then to discussion or comments on SFID 3, and we'll start with Nathan Wagner. Welcome.
All right, we can start my time. Concerned parents of Folsom Ranch, can you all please raise your hands, show our support tonight? All right, very good. All right, good evening. My name is Nathan Wagner, and I'm the parent of two young students who go to Mangini Ranch Elementary. I've been a resident of Folsom for about 3.5 years, and I've been in the area for over 13. I was one of the many parents drawn to FCUSD due to the ratings of the school district and the services that they offer. Due to the pledge of the schools in the community provided by Measure M funds, I knew that my children would be going to schools within their community. When I moved into the district, my children were 2 and 4 years old. A little bit about me. I grew up on a ranch in the Central Valley. I lived only 6 miles away from my K through 8 elementary school. Because I grew up in the country, I had to be bused. I was the second stop in the morning and the second to last stop on the way home. My daily bus ride was 1 hour and 15 minutes in each direction, which meant that for me to be able to get to school on time, I had to wake up at 5:45 to get to the bus stop at 7. I didn't get home from school until about 4:30. This was not the experience that I wanted for my children. I had to do that as a 6-year-old student. I took active steps as a parent to ensure my kids would not have to go through the same experience. Because there is a school in their community, my children can walk, scooter, or bike to school. I love that for them, and it's one of the things that gives me the most joy in life. I wanted for them to be able to live in the area where they went to school. I wanted for them to be able to do extracurricular activities, to make friends from the school and to be able to play with them. I wanted them to be part of the community. I wanted for them to have these experiences that I was never able to have. Schools are the center of our communities. We should have schools in the communities, and kids should be able to go to school where they live. This proposal of making 86% of an entire SFID school population be bused to an even further distance than I had to ride every day is gross. So my family was able to afford to move to Folsom due to one of my parents. I was able to afford our down payment due to the inheritance that I got from my father dying in a fire-making accident. We wanted to give our children the best chance we could at success, and we knew this was going to be through education. The money from my dead father was going to be able to be his way of being able to help his grandchildren that he was not going to be able to know. So this leads me to the FCUSD board meeting from October 9th. There were public comments made during that meeting about how Folsom parents could afford to bus their children, or they could afford to drive their kids to school every day. I'm not one of those parents. The money that we got from Dad is gone. There's no money left. Our budget is stretched just like everybody else's in every other community. There seems to be this perception that everyone in Folsom is wealthy or they have the means to be able to pay for whatever they want, whenever they want. And that's not the reality of my household. If I or my wife do not work, we will lose our home. We bust our butts to be able to provide what we are able, and it's disrespectful and demeaning to assume that we can just foot the bill for anything we want. I grew up on an almond ranch. My wife grew up on a dairy. There's dirt beneath our nails. So please respect our children and giving them the opportunity to grow up in the areas where they go to school.
Thank you. Let's see. Next speaker is Lauren W. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Lauren. I also live in Folsom in the SFID 3 area with my husband, my 3 children, and my mom as well. We all live together. I have 2 people from the gang here tonight. Back there, I have my 4th grader who goes to Mangini Ranch and my mom as well. I was not able to get my teenage boys to come, so kudos to you guys who are up here. No surprise, right? 4 years ago, when my husband took a position in Sacramento, our family decided to relocate to to Sacramento from Cincinnati, Ohio. To be honest, I had never lived outside of my home city, and we didn't know a soul in California. As you might expect, our very first step was to type in our Google search engine, best schools in Sacramento area. The quality of the schools was the sole priority for our family. To no surprise, our hours of research led us to choose Folsom Cordova School District. From 2,400 miles away, we found a place to live, and Folsom became our new home. Today, I'm here to advocate for our students in FCUSD. In 2 short years, I have seen Mangini Ranch Elementary School grow to capacity. In fact, it's currently over capacity by hundreds of students, overflowing to Goldridge Elementary, where my own son attended 2nd grade for this very reason. No doubt Alder Creek Elementary will be no different and will reach capacity quickly as our community continues to grow. By the end of 2023, there will be 3,200 single-family homes in Folsom Ranch and 280 apartment units. As the school district has discovered, most of these homes have both more children and younger children than anticipated. Much like me, people come here because of the stellar reputation of our Folsom Cordova schools. As these kids grow into middle and high schoolers, both our students and teachers will struggle as Folsom Middle and Sutter Middle get pushed towards enrollment numbers of 2,000 students. Folsom High may have to discuss the need to close interdistrict transfers or other means to minimize enrollment. What is clear is this: our existing schools cannot continue to absorb the new families that are relocating to Folsom Ranch. It's important that these students in the entire district be served equitably, Rancho Cordova and Folsom. As a public high school counselor myself for the last 15 years, I advocate for equity every single day of my life. Equity does not mean equal. It means making decisions based on student need and data. Current populations show that there is a present and pressing need in Folsom Ranch. Infrastructure decisions such as where to build schools should be based on where students currently are rather than future speculatory projections. After asking for the number of SFID 3 students in both Folsom and Rancho, I'd like to share them publicly right now. Folsom has 878 elementary students. Rancho has 141. Folsom has 344 middle school students, Rancho 49. Folsom has 346 high school students, and Rancho has 94. So we hope that the students that will be served by the next middle and high schools are today's elementary and middle school students. Folsom is home to 85% of these students. This is the data that we use to determine student need. If the numbers were opposite, I think this conversation would be different, and as should our decision. I hope the board makes one of the biggest decisions in our city for the last decade that it will, based on an actual data and current student need. What I will say is I appreciate all of us having the opportunity to voice our opinions in a forum like this. And at the end of the day, you know, we love our kids. We want the best for all of them, regardless of the community that they're in. And I know you all are taking time away from your families tonight to be here, so we really appreciate that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I will just remind folks, we do have the 3-minute time limit. I am usually fairly generous in letting it go over, but I'll probably start reminding folks about 30 seconds over to wrap up their comments. Next speaker is Catherine L. Welcome.
Good Good evening. Hello. My name is Catherine Long. I live in Folsom Ranch and I'm a social worker in the field of community development. But my most important job is being mom to two amazing children. One is a current student at Mangini Ranch Elementary and one is an alum, now at Folsom Middle School. I'd like to talk about the social-emotional impact of having schools in local communities. My family has benefited from the sense of community that's felt within Folsom Ranch. This is in no small part due to Mangini Ranch Elementary being in the heart of our neighborhood. Kids and their adults walk to school chatting along the way, getting time each day to develop friendships. My daughter can walk to the neighbor's house to play after school where she and her friends talk about things that happened in class or work on school projects. Local activities are held on school campus. Being able to have a place like this close to home has given many of us a sense of belonging. The students feel connected knowing their classmates from the neighborhood and knowing they're close to home and many familiar faces, and parents get to know the teachers. Thinking about sending our middle and high schoolers off to a campus far from home, I worry about what would change. A licensed therapist had this to say: in the first big transfer from elementary to middle school, kids go from knowing staff to not being noticed in their larger environment. Mood disorders like depression and anxiety start to increase at this age. But having strong peer connections in your community can be a buffer. If our students are being sent to school in a different community, they will be developing friendships with peers who may live far away and will be hard to see after school and on the weekends. They will not have the community buffer that is helpful for teen emotional health. Middle and high school kids also want to engage in clubs and activities as another way to manage emotional challenges. But if kids need to catch a bus after school, many will be precluded from participating because of transportation. Can you imagine what would happen to the great social emotional health that is being built up at the elementary schools if a large part of our student body is faced with increased isolation that will come from attending school far from home? We want our students to be seen in their communities and engage in positive social activities, things that come naturally with a neighborhood school, but would be very difficult to do when you're having to run to catch a bus. With so much effort being directed towards increasing emotional health for our students, which is awesome, it seems counterproductive to build in a location that would make things harder for the students in many ways. Please consider what a wonderful gift it is to be able to attend school in your own neighborhood and how being in a community where you are known and recognized bolsters emotional health. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Valerie M. Welcome.
Good evening, board. My name is Valerie Bogard McCullough. I am a parent in Folsom Ranch. I have two young boys. One is a 5th grader at Mangini Ranch Elementary, and the other hopefully will be joining a school here in the next couple of years. I'd like to bring a couple of points for consideration and discussion related to the fiscal impact relative to where the new schools are located. Placement of the facilities should be where they can serve the students, where they actually are. This reduces the district general fund obligations for bus acquisition, fuel, insurance, salaries, benefits, and maintenance, just to name a few. Moving Folsom Ranch children, if we were to build elsewhere, the Folsom Ranch children going to Rancho Cordova would mean moving 7 times as many students based on the previous demographics as the other way around, 7 times as many students. Even if the district were able to absorb these significant costs, the district has already admitted that the shortage of bus drivers have resulted in noticeable increases in tardiness, which disrupt classrooms, missed instruction, and starts these FCUSD students' day off with anxiety and stress. Finally, the district is not required to provide transportation to students, and in August of this year rejected all further bus applications at 5 separate school sites. I, for one, did grow up in Folsom and was in the public school system for many years. However, now with my sons in school, I would not be able to drive my kids to school, and transportation would be a major issue, and I would have to look at leaving. Prioritizing geography and population areas when making these decisions will result in a lower district financial obligation for SFID 3, improve the current and projected staffing shortfalls district-wide, and get more FCUSD students to school on time, leading to greater impact of the education on these students. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to discussing these further.
Thank you. Next speaker is Melissa R. Welcome.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Melissa Roybal. I live in Folsom Ranch. I have a third grader and a kindergartner at Mangini Ranch Elementary. My son has such poor eyesight that the ophthalmologist at UC Davis Medical Center felt really bad for him when he first assessed him. He also has dyslexia. These things were not found before we were at Mangini Ranch Elementary, and I fully believe that he is getting the help he needs solely because my husband and I are able to be present at the school because we're within walking distance of the school. We both work, but we have built that relationship, and I owe it to Kanan Peterson, who is the principal, and Monica Easton, who really advocated for my son and were able to provide him the help he needs. It's been a complete turnaround this year, and it's heartwarming to see him very happy. As we all know, schools are so much better when you have families that are interconnected and fully invested in the success of the school. Being fully present is difficult, if not impossible, for families that attend a commuter school. Let's talk about commuting to each of these proposed locations. Mather Morrison would be built in Rancho Cordova, requiring 86.5% of the student body to be transported via westbound Highway 50, traveling with the heavy flow of traffic towards Sacramento and then exit on Sunrise Boulevard. We have all seen Sunrise Boulevard during rush hour. Then at pickup times, these same students will face heavy flow of traffic back up the hill. Is the city of Rancho Cordova contributing to a traffic control study and going to invest in the millions of dollars in redevelopment costs to make space for hundreds of additional cars and dozens of buses at peak travel times? FCUSD should not incur these expenses either. Moving 13.5% of the student population opposite the flow of traffic on Highway 50 is much more feasible and safe for all of the students and the communities. The developers of Folsom Ranch have a plan for our proposed high school location in Folsom at the intersection of Prairie City and White Rock. Prairie City will be improved and expanded and has almost no traffic. The Folsom location is also as close as possible to Rancho Cordova, and it is practically centered between the communities, while Mather Morrison is well into Rancho Cordova's borders. This location is the smart choice. In addition, studies have shown that attendance rates decrease as distance from school increases. It appears that we won't be able to avoid travel times for everyone, but we are advocating for an equitable solution that will be based on the numbers. That way, the impact can be lessened as much as possible. I think I can safely say that our common goal across the board is to do the best we can for all of the children in this district, no matter what their address is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, Jose R.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a resident in the Folsom Ranch community. The purpose of my attendance and speaking here in front of you today is to voice my opinion and requests for the school board to keep plans into building a high school south of Highway 50 in Folsom, as it was first designed and intended to do so, as well as to comment on the economic uncertainty and possibility of an underutilized mega campus for decades. First, to tell you a little bit about myself, my family and I moved into Folsom almost 4 years ago. Like many families in our area, one major motivation for our move was the quality of schools and education in Folsom. We purchased a home in the Folsom Ranch community, knowing well from the builders in Folsom City that elementary, middle, and high schools would be built in our area. This provided my family not only with a plan and a roadmap, but also a vision of having a continuous and a stable education for our kids near our community for years to come. My wife and I have two kids, 5 years and 7 years of age, that attend Mangini Ranch, who would benefit from these plans that were put in front of us 4 years ago. I would like to request to the board a careful planning and ensuring that Folsom is kept within those plans of building a high school in Folsom. This is where the need is, and my family and I are representatives of that need. Putting schools where the students are now, not where they might be later, is especially important as we see the economy become more uncertain by the day. This is seen especially in housing, with homes staying on the market longer, bidding wars cooling, and interest rates tripling in 3 years. If we build aspirational mega campuses far away from the student population, who will be primarily served by the schools, there is a possibility of an underutilized facilities, while families place pressure on the existing school infrastructure to stretch capacity and expand enrollment. Would this result in FCUSD relying on neighboring districts to fill seats in classrooms, causing those districts to face budget issues and families who paid for these facilities to lose access to them? None of these are outcomes FCUSD can afford to come to pass. We urge you to look at the real numbers that dictate having and building the school infrastructure where the need is. Thanks a lot for your help.
Thank you. Next speaker is Anil C. Welcome.
Respected board members, my name is Anil Chalsani. 3 years back, I and my wife moved from Bay Area to Folsom with our 10-month-old baby, learning this is the best and safest place to raise kids in a diverse neighborhood. New schools made this place our permanent home. The prospect of significant number of students at the Mather Morrison campus being far away from home and supervision before school dropped off early or after school before being picked up or in between practices. It is a safety issue that the district needs to fully consider and plan for. Whether this requires the expense of additional school resource officers, asking administrators and educators to stay on campus longer than contractually required, or an investment in surveillance and monitoring, it cannot be overlooked. FCUSD has a tight budget, but as parents, safety is a significant concern that cannot be overlooked. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Nilima P. Welcome.
My name is Nilima Patel, and I live in Folsom Ranch. I grew up in Fair Oaks, then spent some time in other cities, but when I decided to move back to the area, I chose Folsom. The main reason was the highly rated public schools, so I'm deeply concerned about the current proposal to build a middle high school in Rancho Cordova and not in Folsom Ranch. This proposal is not in the best interest of the students and our communities. A better solution would be to build schools in each community based on student need. It does not need to be a question of which community gets schools. It should be a question of what type of school does each community get and when does that school get built. We need to redesign schools to be less costly and build in phases to stretch existing Measure M funds as far as we can, so schools can be built in each community. This is what is in the best interest of students and communities in SFID 3. This should be our focus, not the interests of politicians, housing developers, or those outside SFID 3 looking for a new closed school to which they can transfer. We need to build the middle high school in Folsom Ranch now. This is where there is the most student need for these schools based on current enrollment and homes and apartments actually built, not just projections. I do not understand how the board can consider putting the middle high school in a neighborhood that will only have around 15% of the students needed to fill that school, instead of in Folsom Ranch, where approximately 85% of middle and high school students will reside. Additionally, this solution will not require unnecessary busing. It doesn't make sense to bus over 80% of students to Rancho Cordova. That would result in extra costs, bus driver shortages, and increased traffic and pollution. Building in Folsom Ranch means we can build the necessary infrastructure needed for increased traffic associated with large schools. The current site proposed in Rancho Cordova does not have the roads needed to support this increased traffic. Folsom Ranch does. Building in Folsom Ranch would alleviate existing overcrowding at existing Folsom schools, benefiting those district schools as well. Schools can also be built in Rio del Oro based on student need. If the Rio del Oro population is younger, build schools for K-8 students that can flex as demographics shift. Rio del Oro students will benefit from schools built in Folsom Ranch until that community can support its own high school. We must act in the best interest of students and build the middle high school in Folsom Ranch now. This solution is backed by the demographic data, is fiscally responsible, reduces the need for unnecessary busing, builds in a location that can support increased traffic, helps reduce overcrowding at existing Folsom schools, can result in schools in both Folsom Ranch and Rio del Oro. How do we move forward? Going forward, I asked the board for greater transparency. Most parents in Folsom Ranch did not know the district was running out of money to build schools until after the October 9th board meeting. This was not because Folsom parents did not care. It was because there was not transparency on the specific decisions being discussed and made at that meeting. We are asking for more transparency on demographic data, projections, solutions, and decisions being discussed by the board. We have provided alternate solutions. These solutions must be considered and addressed by the board. Please involve parents in the discussion of potential solutions so we can all work together to meet the needs of our students and communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Matthew R. Welcome.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm a parent of 2 children in Folsom as well, and we just moved here a couple years ago. I recently learned that not all the funds from Measure M are going directly into school buildings. This administration building is a perfect example. It was built back in 2010. My understanding is the funds, approximately $27 million, came from Measure M. There's another maintenance service facility building that's also planned for construction within the next couple of years. With inflation, the cost will be much higher than anticipated as well. I am wondering why Measure M is being used 100% for these facilities rather than construction for schools we need badly, but now we're short of funds. The funding for Measure M should have been saving the funds to build our desperately needed schools that we are now having trouble paying for. As I've mentioned previously last time I was here, I think this all comes down back to the set expectations for the Folsom Cordova Unified School District in Measure M. These expectations are based on a plan to build specific schools in both Folsom and Rancho Cordova. Using the funds for other means is further removing everyone from the desired and expected outcome with Measure M. Sticking to the pre-approved plan and finding additional funding, just like was done for this administration building, is the best answer. Houses will continue to be built, and all the schools slated for construction will at some point be built because there's simply going to be nowhere for the students to go. And we'll find the funding just like we did back in 2010 for this building. So I think, generally speaking, we have this planned community where they plan all the houses, they plan out all the commercial areas, and they even plan out the schools. And I think everybody here, it's pretty obvious that they had these expectations set, that the high school was going to be built in Folsom. And there's also schools that were slated to be built in Rancho Cordova. And I think if we change the plan, it's going to throw everything off balance. And I think that's really unfair to everybody who bought homes here as well, in both communities. And while I realize the money is running out, I think it is really important to stick to the plan. Because once you start changing the plan, what are the boundaries of change at that point in time? So I think it is important for us moving forward to stick to the plan because those are the expectations. And once the funding runs out, we are going to have to find additional funds. But I think at the same time, just like this building was built, we can continue to find additional funding so that other schools can be built as well. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Lena W. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Elena Wagner. I've had some conversations with you folks up there and a lot of conversation with folks back here. As you can hear, we brought a lot of our kids because they hear us in our homes talking about this issue, and my children have their own little takes. David, they wrote you like little letters that I'll leave over here for you later. I translated my son's handwriting, so don't worry. We came to you tonight to ensure that the board is aware of the potential drawbacks of a singular facility in Rio del Oro to service all of SFID3 from 6th through 12th grade. But we aren't here to say that we want it all or nothing at all. In fact, our proposed alternatives involve both communities receiving facilities to service their students close to home. I, for one, genuinely believe that we are more aligned than not, and knowing that there is $540 million in available funding left over, I ask that we all take this as an opportunity to steer great new FCUSD schools to where they make sense for the students who will be attending them in both communities. A mega campus for 6th through 12th is an idea, but that doesn't mean it's the best or the only one. Phased high schools are common when populations are still growing, and if the concept of dual middle school, high school really saves so much money, well, we have money, students, and the will to build 2 campuses. In truth, mirroring the schools after one another will be yet another way to save funds. Simplifying the designs, the gentleman from Rancho Cordova mentioned the glass walls. I hate those glass walls. They have trapped teachers inside of the classrooms. I think I told that to David previously. Not our favorite. We want to focus, same as them, on technology, on safety, on a community place for our children to gather and to learn. We also cannot overlook flex campuses, such as the phased high schools, while we both in communities deal with the shifting ages of our student populations. But we also cannot wait on these projects. I really urge the board to find ways to build these schools sooner than later, because the children in the existing Rancho Cordova and Folsom schools are going to suffer with larger class sizes, less access to the electives that they want, to be on sports teams. If we don't act quickly, we have the money and the ability and the will and the bodies to do it. In the future, nobody likes this, but whether the district splits or whether we stay together, new schools are going to be needed. And I think the concerns about how funds are used and how this conversation started and how we hope that it will start to go is going to stay in the back of my mind, but I hope it stays in the back of our minds and that we do not lead with historical feelings between communities, because we're all a brand new community, and I think a lot of the Rio del Oro people are also transplants. We're not a part of that. We don't want a part of that. We want to work together, and I think we have the funds and the need to do it. So whether future bonds may be more project specific or specific to a more concentrated area of students, that's left to be said. But if right now both communities can listen, can work together with the board, I think we can find incredible solutions that we can all appreciate that will result in all of our children thriving. Thank you.
Excuse me. Next, excuse me. Next speaker, Rob Planette.
Thank you. You guys have a tough job just sitting there not being able to communicate back to anybody. That's got to be tough. Brought my little ones. I'm actually a resident of Folsom as well. Although I'm addressing the board, my comments are more to all the community members of SFID3. I'm part of a group of parents that's kind of helping create a grassroots effort to communicate to the board what we're looking for. And we want to reach out to the Rancho Cordova residents and all come together and present options and opinions to you guys for your consideration, the staff. I'm encouraged to know that you guys are all open to ideas and suggestions, but it seems like there's a fight on each side and it's one side versus the other. The group of parents that I'm working within Folsom have not that opinion. We want the best for the kids, the students. I got my little ones here. We want the best for all of them, not just Folsom, not just Rancho Cordova. We want the best for everybody. We actually created an email address so the people from Rancho Cordova can reach out so we can combine and create a group of parents just within SFID3. I know there's several different school districts within Rancho Cordova. Feel sorry for them. That's just tough. But we need this just to be SFID 3 because that's all you guys care about. So the email address that we created is sfid3parents@gmail.com. And anybody from Rancho Cordova, Folsom that would like to get together so we can present opinions to the board. You guys may not agree with it. You might be looking for other ideas. If we can only agree on 75%, that's something that we can give you guys or the staff that can present it. So hopefully we can come together as a community in SFID 3 and offer you guys some suggestions that you'll look at, because I am encouraged that you are looking for different options rather than what's been presented. You are looking for the best for everybody, and that's what we're all looking for too. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to quickly clarify, is the 3 in SFID 3 parents is numeric?
Number 3.
Number 3,
Good.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, next speaker, Tracy Yang. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tracy. I'm a mother of a 4-year-old toddler, and Folsom Ranch is where my partner and I call home. Let's talk about something close to our hearts, the future of our kids. As parents, we diligently pay our taxes and Mello-Roos fees with the aim of shaping the future of our community. Now, we were informed that population data is collected to ensure funds are used appropriately. However, I have some reservations. Number 1, future students unaccounted for. Among the numbers, there are those not counted yet, like my son, still in preschool. Our kids who will soon fill those high school seats need to be considered in these calculations. Number 2, demand for accurate investment. We must demand that our hard-earned dollars go beyond just roads and parks. We need investment in classrooms and opportunities that allow our kids to thrive. Our community in Folsom Ranch is growing, and so is the financial contribution we're making. However, let's ensure that investment isn't just about physical structures, but also cultivating spaces for our kids. This isn't merely about bricks and mortar. It's about extracting the maximum value from every dollar. We're not just paying for structures, we're investing in outstanding teachers, cutting-edge resources, and an education that sets our kids up for success. Now, here's the crucial point. We need to be clear that our community isn't merely a cluster of houses, it's a thriving hub where educated individuals attract businesses and opportunities. And this brings me to a polite concern. If we're paying for higher home prices and Mello-Roos fees in Folsom, it's only fair that the school be located here. However, if funding is not an issue, let's build a high school in each location. After all, this shouldn't be a zero-sum game. Technology is advancing rapidly, and our schools need to keep pace. If we are contributing, let's ensure our kids are equipped with the skills and tools they need for the future job market. It's not just about paying taxes, it's about investing in our kids tomorrow. Thank you. I appreciate your understanding.
Thank you. The last card, I'm struggling to figure out what the letter is, but I'm going to go with Diana Laney. Welcome.
Hi, guys. Just like many of the residents in both Rancho and Folsom, I'm a parent juggling all the aspects of trying to raise 2 good human beings. I ask my kids 8 times a day to put on their shoes, and I feel like I'm a taxi service, and homework time is often a battle. I stand before you tonight as part of a group of Folsom parents who are looking for solutions. I'm part of the leadership group that helped to bring the people in here today. And so the big question within what feels like it's starting to become a battle is, are our children worth it? I've seen and heard and discussed the promise that we aren't getting what we promised. And this is not only for my friends in our own community in Folsom, but also in Rancho. And as parents with kids, we all know that there is a difference between a plan and a promise. We may plan to go get ice cream later, but when we run out of time, we have to change the plan. Our kids think it was a promise because they expected the plan to work out. My friends, the plan was to build a lot of schools. But that was 16 years ago before a recession, a building stall, a pandemic, and massive construction cost inflation. Today, the fund simply won't go as far as planned. And I know some of you have lived in the neighborhood a long time and some only a short time. And we all pay towards the bond. Some have paid for years and some at higher rates. And we're all gonna pay for a long time. And I know that when you walked in the Builder Sales Center or talked to your realtor, just like me, you most likely heard the plan. The plan for the parks, all the schools, all the things. It was all going to be what you wanted. We were all going to get our own ice cream. But that was with the funding from bond measure passed 16 years ago. The money simply won't pay for all those planned amenities. Are our children worth it to change the plan for our needs today? Recently, through the discussions we've had with board members and other community members, I've learned about events that historically have divided our two cities, creating ill will and mistrust. And I understand that many may have a long memory. As someone relatively new to the area, I recognize the challenge of looking past the grievances. However, it's essential to acknowledge that many of us are new neighbors, eager to work together for a greater good. So I ask, are our children worth it to move forward from where we are today? What can happen if instead of arguing over what to do with the remaining bond funds, both parents in Rancho Cordova and Folsom had conversations together, modeling that modern parenting technique, use your words? Is it possible that if we collectively came together that we might find solutions to work for both our children in each of our communities? Are our children worth collaborating for? Despite our geographic divisions, our shared desires for the best education that we can possibly give, and that unites us. Are our children worth it? We all work hard. We all want the best for our children. We all pay taxes. We're all stressed, and we all are trying to do our best. We have different views on our needs, but I urge our groups to come together. Let's have discussions. And while we may not agree on everything, I believe that working together will give the board better options that will serve the entire community, both Rancho Cordova as well as Folsom. My name is Diana Laney. Rob, one of my partners in crime here, created the email. We stand ready to have conversations and we welcome the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments?
Yeah. I put it in for both, so I would like to. Good evening, I'm James Garcia, again, resident of Rancho Cordova. I'm here to talk about this in that Measure M has been poorly managed as far as spending. We over-designed the two elementary schools in Folsom Ranch area and have a lack of funds here now to actually be equitable for both cities. This school district was formed based off of a joint effort of two communities. Rancho Cordova, in its heyday, back when Mather Air Force Base was around, was the place to be, not Folsom. The moment Intel came into Folsom and the base closed, that's when Folsom became popular. Our last high school that is actually for all of our students was built in 1963. You have Folsom High School, built in 1998, top of the line. Vista del Lago, 2007. There is a big disparity. Right now, we have students that are traveling up to Folsom constantly for school. There was a Spanish immersion program that my friends sent their kids to in Folsom. They went to Sutter Middle School, then to Vista del Lago. So you are having our students come up to Folsom, get federal funding for your schools. That is why your schools have the best ratings. We don't have the proper funds. Now you want to go ahead and claim that, well, Folsom has a student population. That's also a fault of Elliott Holmes, who is building a lot of this stuff because he failed to build Rio Del Oro in time. Your original plan that was talked about was for the high school to be built in Rancho Cordova. That, once again, is not going to happen. If you listen to everybody here that wants the school, kids are there. I grew up, when I was born, my area was promised a high school. It took over 30 years for that high school to happen. That was Rosemont High. 30 years. Miss Laird also was promised a school. She moved over to Rancho instead because they did not get that school in Rosemont, which was part of Sac City. I know it's not your school district and our school district, but that is what happened. 30 years because there's not funds. This fund is going to go away if you design it to be the state-of-the-art monstrosity of all the other schools. We need to have basic schools that fit the needs of the students. Both communities need that. Not just Folsom, not just Rancho Cordova. We want it all. We need to have proper schools built that have basic needs. Get the test scores up for everybody so people will actually want to come out to Rancho Cordova now and not just be Folsom. So those are just a few of the things I have to say. Please stop mismanaging the funds. Don't go design elaborate monstrosities that don't matter. The students can build the murals themselves, especially if you're building new schools. That's the type of stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers online?
Yes, we have Jennifer.
Jennifer, welcome. You have to unmute.
Sorry, I was trying to find my mute button. I apologize. I'm Jennifer Garcia. Thank you for having me here tonight and listening to the concerns of all the parents. I think it's safe to say that parents in Folsom and Rancho Cordova both feel the same. We both want to have a sense of community where our kids can grow up, be close to the neighbors, be close to the schools. However, that's just not a reality in Rancho Cordova. My kids, I drive me and my husband to school every day. We actually do not have our children in schools in Rancho Cordova because of the quality of schools. We bus them to and from every day. This is, there are a couple of parents that have made comments about, not being able, because they live in Folsom, they have the means. Well, we don't necessarily have the means either. We do what we have to do to get our children to get the best education. And we do need schools in this area. What James was just saying, our schools have been old here. We get the hand-me-downs. There's been so mismanaging of money when it comes to this board and not treating the areas as equal. We get hand-me-downs. I don't know how the parents of the school that's in there right now feel, but there were schools in Rancho Cordova last year that didn't even have heat for their elementary kids. And they had to come to city council to get city council members to go out and buy heaters so the students would have that. There is a lot of just discord between what is Rancho Cordova and what is Folsom. This school needs to be built in the Rio del Oro area. It is something that has been promised to this area for a long time. And if you were to actually truly look at the amount of kids that are going to Folsom from Rancho Cordova on a daily basis, you would see your schools actually have lesser numbers than what is truly reflected there. Those kids, a lot of those kids use big addresses or friends' addresses, to be in those schools. A lot of us travel outside of our area. Do we want to do it? No. Would I love it if my kids could walk to school? Absolutely. But unfortunately, it's just not the reality. It is a very heated issue, and I feel sorry for the board and the position that you're in right now, but we really need to look at what was promised to Rancho. And if you look at the fact that we haven't had a new school in over 30 years, and Folsom has had 2 schools built, and you have state-of-the-art schools up there with high technology, you have heat, you have new weight rooms. We don't have those things. You really need to look at the fairness of the difference between Rancho schools and Folsom schools and build the school in Rio del Oro where we need it. I'm sorry if your children have to be bused to school or be driven to school. I have to do that daily. Do I like it? No. Do I spend sometimes days until 5 or 6 o'clock at night, up the hill? I do, because my kids are in sports and they do things up there, or if they want to do things with their friends, I'm driving up there.
If you could wrap up, please.
It's a reality, but thank you for your time. I feel sorry for the board, but yes, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Any other, no? All right. All right, well, that finishes the public comment, and that will take us to reports of district organizations. We'll start with the Student Advisory Board.
We don't have a report today. Our next meeting is December 6th.
Okay. Next, the California School Employees Association. Welcome.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Clegan. I'm happy to say that CSEA was able to
Actually, why don't we wait just a minute or two?
Not a problem. I
yeah,
was going to wonder. Now I got to see.
For those at home, we're just going to wait about 2 minutes and pick right up. All right, thank you. My apologies. Go ahead.
No apology necessary. Good evening, board members and Dr. Clegan. I'm happy to say CSEA has come to a tentative agreement with the district on compensation for the 23-24 school year and the 24-25 school year. With a little bit of language to be fixed, we will be signing within the next week or two, and ratification scheduled for the 13th of December. We have also signed a middle school registrar's job description and reclassification to range 7. An early retirement incentive for $1,500 as well. All three will be ratified at the 13th chapter meeting. Nothing else to report at this time. Thank you, board members.
Thank you. And next, we have the Folsom Cordova Education Association. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. So board, FCUSD administrators, and our teachers who are online tonight, so close to our much-deserved break coming up next week. FCA is currently in the process of reviewing the tentative agreement signed on November 7th. After the Thanksgiving break, there will be a general membership meeting at Folsom High in the multi, so that we can further discuss the TA and answer any questions members might have. Then a vote will be sent out thereafter. While we appreciate the adjustments the district made to update the budget assumptions, at the end, this feels fair but not very satisfying for members. There is still unrest amongst the members. However, there are some hopeful signs. The contingency language agreed to in the TA does tie COLA from the year received to the year of salary and starts to move to a model where ongoing funding increases are part of the salary negotiations. 2, it opens up important conversations regarding health benefits starting next year, since we already know that the increases will be substantial. 3, most importantly, the 2-year agreement allows time to fix the budgeting process. FCEA expects that when the district receives increases in ongoing money through the LCFF funding, that there will be a process for earmarking a reasonable and fair percentage towards the teacher compensation at the front end of the process before the budget is built out. CTA recommends that 40% of new ongoing general fund money be earmarked for certificated staff in order to attract the best teachers in a declining pool of prospects and to stabilize and retain current staff. FCUSD administrators and board members have acknowledged concerns over the budgeting process, allocating monies for staff after the fact, and have verbally suggested that we, the district and labor partners, work towards finding a formula that works for all. The FCEA executive board and the negotiation team will work towards that goal. But respect is more than just money. As teachers have expressed at previous board meetings, there is also frustration in the sense that our professional experience and input are too often not being heard or addressed. Treating certificated staff as partners in the educational business of the district and improving our communication with staff about programs and policies in a clear, consistent, and timely manner also needs improvement within our district. While there is frustration and shaky relationships now, there is a belief that things can improve. Everybody wants what is best for our students, and part of that is for all the adults to work together in partnership and to take care of the business needed so that FCUSD students receive the education they deserve. FCEA looks forward to working with FCUSD on both the monetary and non-monetary processes and challenges so that we can do the best for our staff, but most importantly, for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Folsom Cordova Leadership Association. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Clegan, President Reed, members of the board, esteemed colleagues. My name is Keith Shields, Assistant Principal at Mills Middle School and Vice President of SCLA. I'm pleased to share with you tonight an overview of the outstanding contributions made by Ms. Alicia Cattell, our esteemed Career Technical Education Coordinator. Ms. Cattell's commitment to education spans an impressive 21 years, with the last 6 being dedicated to FCUSD. During her tenure here, she's left an incredible mark on our CTE programs, demonstrating unparalleled passion and dedication. As an inaugural CTE coordinator for our district, Ms. Cattell has significantly enhanced the quality of education and student achievement. Her innovative approach involves integrating cross-curricular lessons, fostering leadership skills, adhering to industry standards, establishing crucial business and educational partnerships, and incorporating industry-specific equipment and technology. Ms. Cattell has successfully crafted CTE programs that cater to the needs of students regardless of their background or academic standing. Through hands-on, project-based learning, she's created CTE pathways, focusing on 12 elements of high-quality CTE. These pathways extend beyond the confines of traditional classrooms, offering students the chance to engage in career, technical student organizations, work-based learning, internships, service learning projects, and more. Her commitment to college and career readiness for all students is evident in her development of programs aligned with high-demand, high-wage careers. Ms. Cattell diligently evaluates CTE courses annually, ensuring they remain current by incorporating the latest skills, standards, and rigor. Her efforts have led to the introduction of new advanced placement courses, honors, and the district's first dual enrolled CTE courses, all of which now hold A through G status. In addition to her transformative work within the district, Ms. Cattell has played a pivotal role in securing over $15 million in grants for FCUSD. The list of accomplishments has been supported during her relatively short time here, is extensive and commendable. Her leadership in CTE has not only garnered recognition from our students and staff, but has also earned her the well-deserved title of Association of California Administrators, Career Technical Education Administrator of the Year for the state of California. This prestigious accolade is a testament to her unwavering commitment to excellence and innovation in career and technical education. FCLA would like to express our sincere gratitude to Ms. Cattell for her exceptional contributions to FCUSD and her tireless efforts in preparing our students for successful and fulfilling futures. Her achievement serves as an inspiration to us all, and we look forward to witnessing the continued growth and success for our CTE programs under her guidance. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, District English Learner Advisory Committee. Welcome.
Good evening, Elena Cabrera here. Good evening, President David Reed, Superintendent Dr. Sarah Collegian, and the rest of the members of the board, and my esteemed colleagues. I have a brief report. As you know, we've been talking up the Parent Summit, and so one of the highlights that I'll speak about will be that, and then some other announcements. On November 4th, we did have a Parent Summit. We had over 100 attendees. I want to first thank Mr. Chris Clark for being in attendance and joining us for the day, as well as Dr. Collegian. And I did some math, and it had been the 7th year, so I was really grateful, and I know that the parents appreciated that as well. There was highlights on school funds and an activity that supported that, as well as discussion around programs. There was a wonderful presentation and opportunity to engage the parents in some feedback on community schools presented by Carla Gaiman Davis and the team of the community schools members. And then I move on to say that on February 3rd, we will have our second Parent Summit, which is, as you know, commonly, traditionally our data walk. And so we will have that on a Saturday, February 3rd. And the emphasis is really to engage the parent community at that time and allowing for their voice and feedback and that data walk. And then the last thing I'll announce is that on January 9th will be our next DLAC meeting, where a focus on updating our reclassified number of students. As you know, in February, we begin LPAC testing, which is the English learner testing, and the parents and students work, as well as the schools work really hard on getting students reclassified that are ready to do so leading up to that point. So topic of conversation will be our update on reclassified students, as well as preparing our parents and their families for the upcoming LPAC testing. And that's our report. Thank you.
Thank you. Quick question. You mentioned the Parent Summit, the
Yes.
second Parent Summit on February 3rd.
Yes.
The location and time?
Yeah, it'll be at I apologize, at Rancho Cordova Elementary. Our general startup time is 8:30. We go until 11:30. We'll get more specific details as we send out flyers with the lineup. All right?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. That takes us to item 10, agenda consent. I understand there are no items being pulled. Is that correct? All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move it.
Motion by Board Member Clark. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Which one? Oh, okay. Board Member Melajor seconded it. Superintendent?
Yes. Mr. Melajor?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Hui?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
And I understand we have an announcement.
We do. As part of the action that the board just took on the consent agenda, they approved the personnel action form. And with that, we have an announcement of our new principal for Cordova High School. We are pleased to announce that Amy Strawn has been selected as the principal of Cordova High School. Ms. Strawn became the interim principal for Cordova High last August to fill a sudden vacancy and has proved to be an outstanding leader, fostering positive school climate and high-caliber student learning. Prior to her role as interim principal for CHS, Ms. Strawn was the principal of Mitchell Middle School and has served in multiple roles as a teacher, coordinator, and administrator for Folsom Cordova schools since joining the district in 2007. As International Baccalaureate Coordinator for the district, Ms. Strawn supervised and coordinated all aspects of this globally recognized and distinguished program for W.E. Mitchell Middle School and Cordova High School, making her uniquely qualified to navigate multifaceted and high-caliber academic opportunities for all Lancer students. Her time spent at Cordova High and Mitchell Middle School has allowed her to develop meaningful connections with the community's students, families, and staff. She believes that her role as the instructional leader is centered on facilitating an educational community where learning flourishes and every student can reach their full potential. Congratulations, Amy, and welcome to the new role of Cordova High School principal.
Thank you very much. It really has been an honor to serve this district and the students within it, specifically those in Rancho Cordova, and I am extremely honored and grateful for the opportunity. And they say once a Lancer, always a Lancer, and I'm back, so let's do it. Thank you.
Congratulations. All right, that takes us to item 11, which is a public hearing. So I just need to quickly gavel into the public hearing. This is a public hearing, intent to grant an easement to Sacramento Municipal Utility District at Alder Creek Elementary School. Superintendent.
Yes, this item is a public hearing. It's a request from Sacramento Municipal Utility District to grant an easement on the Alder Creek Elementary site. Ed Code requires that we adopt a resolution of intent to grant the easement by first holding a public hearing and then adopting the resolution in the next board action.
Thank you. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak on this item? Online? All right, then we will close the public hearing. And that takes us to agenda item 12, discussion action. First, item A, adopt resolution number 11-16-23-11, grant an easement to Sacramento Municipal Utility District at Alder Creek Elementary School. Superintendent.
Yes, with the public hearing just being completed, the board's action now is to adopt the resolution for the easement for SMUD.
Okay, is there a motion? Well, let me take that back. Is there any questions from the board? Audience? Online? All right. Is there a motion from the board?
Mr. President, I'll move it.
All right, motion by Board Member Clark. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Larrett. Superintendent.
Yes, Mr. Mellinger?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Hui?
Aye.
Mr. Larrett?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
All right, item B, annual organizational meeting notice. The annual organization meeting of the Folsom Cordova Unified School District Board of Trustees is set for Thursday, December 14th, 2023, 6 p.m. at the Education Services Center, Rancho Cordova, California. Superintendent.
I think you just explained the whole topic. We're required to notice this meeting of our organizational meeting within the 15-day period of the first 2 weeks of December. So December 14, 2023 at 6 p.m. is that designated date.
Okay, any questions from the board? No? Any public comment? Online? All right, is there a motion to adopt the annual organizational meeting notice?
I'll move.
Motion by Board Member Hui, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Lofthouse. Superintendent.
Mr. Mellinger?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Hui?
Aye.
Ms. Larrett?
Aye.
Ms. Lofthouse?
Aye.
Mr. Reed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item 13, discussion. Item A, Measure G, Citizens Board Oversight Committee 2021-2022 Annual Report. Superintendent.
Yes, this item is done annually as far as having our annual report based on our auditor's review of our Measure M Bond. And we want to welcome Laura Ruby, the chairperson of our Measure M Bond Oversight Committee, and Mr. Washburn, who is our chief operational officer. Welcome.
I don't want to share.
Thank you. Good evening. This is the annual report for the Measure G Bond Oversight Committee's report to the board. As required, an annual report, the Bond Oversight Committee accepts the performance of financial audits, and they are to report out the findings of that and acceptance of that. So with that, I'd like to introduce our chairman of the Bond Oversight Committee, Laura Ruby.
Members of the Board of Trustees, citizens, and administration of the district, ladies and gentlemen, as chair of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for the Folsom Cordova Unified School District, it is my privilege and pleasure to present on behalf of the full committee our annual report for Measure G. The Bond Oversight Committee exists to ensure that expenditures of the funds collected under the voter-approved bond Measure G are spent on the items and projects voters approved at the time of their vote. The committee is dedicated to ensuring that the public trust is well kept and remains intact throughout the life of the bond. The Bond Oversight Committee is pleased to report that the expenditures of the fiscal year 2021 through 2022 after a full audit by an outside agency are in compliance with all laws, regulations, and accounting. On behalf of the entire committee, thank you for this opportunity to serve our district and ensure that all is in full compliance with legal and ethical guidelines.
All right. Is there any questions from the board?
Ready for the next one?
Well, 1 second. Let me ask, is there any questions from the public? Online? All right, so this is just discussion only, so next one would be,
I also want to add, included in this is also a general overview of the activities of the Bond Oversight Committee for the year, as well as an overview of all the projects included in this. Those are also additional attachments for your information as well.
okay, thank you. So the next item would be item B, which is Measure M, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee 2021-22 Annual Report.
Members of the Board of Trustees, citizens, and administration of the district, ladies and gentlemen, as a member of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for the Folsom Cordova Unified School District, it is my privilege and pleasure to present, on behalf of the full committee, our annual report for Measure M. The Bond Oversight Committee exists to ensure the expenditures of the funds collected under the voter-approved bond, Measure M, are spent on the items and projects voters approved at the time of their vote. The committee is dedicated to ensuring that the public trust is well kept and remains intact throughout the life of the bond. The Bond Oversight Committee is pleased to report that the expenditures of the fiscal year 2021-2022, after a full audit by an outside agency, are in compliance with all laws, regulations, and accounting. On behalf of the entire committee, thank you for this opportunity to serve our district and ensure that all is in full compliance with legal and ethical guidelines.
All right, questions from the board? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Online? All right, this was just discussion only, so thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And that takes us to item C, which is the Folsom Cordova Unified School District 2023 Fall Vital Signs Data Report. Superintendent.
Yes, tonight we have our team from Curriculum and Instruction that will be presenting on some of our data points at the conclusion of our Fall 2023 data, trending and data and attendance, behavior, and student performance, and also a focus on not only academics, but student well-being. So with that, I welcome the team to the podium to share highlights of the Fall 2023 Vital Signs Report.
So good evening. This is our first report this year, first of 3 that we'll be sharing with the board as we progress through the year in terms of this new approach that we implemented last year of looking at data. As you know, Folsom Cordova has made great strides over the last couple of years in terms of becoming a district that is very focused on the data helping us to make our decisions and to really to dive deeply into the data as a way of ensuring that we're understanding, root causes as well as items that need to be explored further in service to all of our students. So as we always start, the use of our data in Folsom Cordova, we use it as a flashlight, right? It helps lead the way. It helps light things up in terms of exposing things that need to be attended to. And so I particularly like the last bullet, the characteristic of good data is its potential to help educators and staff make good decisions about student learning and help guide and direct our teaching. So as we expressed last year, our focus this year was really to hone in on first instruction. And so that is really to ensure that kids are that first blush of instruction, whatever the unit is, whatever the topic is that all kids are experiencing that in real time and getting a rich learning environment that helps them understand either the content or helps improve a specific skill. And then in terms of that as well, we have a variety of our current actions. I won't read all of them to you, obviously, but there's a bunch of things that we've implemented the last couple of years. I will say that one of the things that we have really shifted from is perhaps in past years, we focused a lot on curriculum and bringing in new curriculum, kind of what's the next boxed product that we thought might be helpful to students. And instead, we really shifted to how do we help our teachers? And how do we build our teachers' skill sets to really give our teachers the tools to impact our kids in a positive way. You'll see tonight that we are making some progress. We have some bright spots, particularly in our low socioeconomic and our Black and African American students in grades 3 and 7. And then also, of course, there's the hyperlink if you would like to really dive in deep, because there is a lot of data that could be had. This evening, our data ambassadors will be Ms. Oyen and Mr. Meyer and Ms. Hazarian. And so with that, I will pass the clicker over to Ms. Oyen.
Thank you, Dr. Huber. Thank you, Dr. Collegian and members of the board. When we talk about the student performance tonight, and we're looking at our final CAS data that we've received just recently for the 22-23 school year, this slide shares a comparison of Folsom Cordova to the state as a whole, and also a number of the surrounding districts that are also K-12. What we can see here in ELA kind of across the board is many of the districts showed that we had a slight decline in performance scores last year. Our district compared to the state as a whole and these districts in the area, we still have a larger number of students who are meeting and exceeding the standards in ELA than the state and some of our surrounding neighbors. We had a decline of about 1.44, so we kind of held steady, not where we would want to be in terms of going in a positive direction, but we're kind of holding steady in this area right now. When we look into some of our subgroups, when we look at gender, what we see here for ELA, well, more than half of our students in both male and female are meeting or exceeding the state standards. This is kind of consistently what we have seen even when we look at data back pre-COVID, is this disparity of about a 10% gap between our male and females that it hasn't really budged a whole lot. When we start to look at some of our other subgroups in terms of ELA, we saw some very slight gains this year, not anything that's huge that is a large enough gain that we're super excited about, but some small gains by our Black and African American students and our low socioeconomic group in ELA. Sorry, this is just the slide. So sharing, we can definitely see that when we look back at our data from 18-19 pre-COVID to today, that we are still not having our subgroups perform at the same level as all of our students. When we move on to looking at math, we see a similar story here, in that comparing Folsom Cordova to the state and to some of our surrounding neighbors that are K-12 districts, we do have more students in our district that are meeting or exceeding the state standards in math. Kind of a little different story here, kind of a smaller swing, whether districts kind of declined a little or gained a little. But again, in Folsom Cordova, with a change of about 0.4%, we held steady. So we were not having big backward slides here. When we move into looking at our gender results, again, this is somewhat consistent with what we have seen in past years. A much smaller disparity between males and females in math, which is consistent with what we've seen in past years. When we move into mathematics, we saw some slight gains in our subgroups when we're looking at our LCAP subgroups. Again, a slight gain with our low socioeconomic students and a slight gain with our students with disability, but we would want to be looking at more data over time to make sure we're continuing to move in the right direction. When we look at our subgroups by race and ethnicity, we again saw slight gains with our African American students and our Hispanic students, but we want to keep moving in that direction. On our LCAP goal here, we historically have seen any range of around 14 to 17, 18% of our students who take the LPAC test at level 4, which means they are definitely looked at for reclassification. What we've seen over the last couple of years is around 90% of the students that test at level 4 end up being reclassified. Remember, this is a test that has 4 different levels. And so here we're talking about students that are testing at the highest level. And so when we have students that come in at, straight from other countries, our demographics are within that group kind of change. And we have students who are testing at the lower levels. But when we get the kids up to level 4, then we're seeing a lot of those being reclassified, about 90% of the students that reach level 4. I'll turn it over to Mr. Meyer.
Hey, everyone. This is the 5th time I've presented on attendance, so I'm going to try and just keep to the script, but I do just want to remind the board and anyone listening that attendance is the #1 indicator for 8th grade and on if you're going to graduate high school, and that's our number one goal. So just keep that in your mind. So our current goals are to make sure that we have attendance teams and teams that are consistently not only looking at data, but acting on that data, and calibrated district-wide best practices, starting with that first truancy all the way to truancy court and everything in between. How are we doing this? We definitely want to continue highlighting the district support and working with having attendance teams, really piloting those at the schools that show the biggest demand, which we are doing. Having consistent meetings, not one and done through the year, which we have done in the past. We realize this is something we need to continue meeting with boots on the ground, with our own team, with cabinet, and also having our attendance specialist focusing on not just working with students, but building those structures within the schools and within the district. We're really excited that we continue going the right direction. Chronic absenteeism is down 4%, and we're up 0.8% of a percent, which again is quite a bit if you really start putting names to that number. Last year we did hold more SARTs at that time, and that's at the site level, but we've also held 29 SARBs this year, which is at our level. And I think whether we're talking academics, whether we're talking behavior, we're talking attendance, it's kind of the same story. It's early intervention, evidence-based strategies, using the data, making sure, building the people that are working with our students, building our staff. So we're trying to model that with attendance as well. So chronic absenteeism, remember that's 10% or more. That has dropped from 22% to 17% to 13%, and our goal is to get that into the single digit. We still have a lot of room for growth there, but I am excited that we continue to go in the right direction.
Scott, do you by chance know what the pre-pandemic percentage was?
Yeah, so it was right around 8.5%. Okay. And was it 18-19? Yeah, 18-19, was that the last? I get it confused, or was it 19-20? Anyway, the last year, yeah. So we still have some room to get back to those pre-pandemic, and that's our goal. I mean, like I say we're excited, but we still need to do better.
Let's go in the right direction.
Yeah, we're excited about that. So our year over year, our goal is 97, right? 96 district-wide, 95% at Title I, and 97% at our non-Title I schools. So we're close, but remember, the best it's ever going to be is right now, because we're entering the trifecta of sicknesses, we're entering vacation time, all that fun stuff. So with that said, we know that, and we're really trying to plan accordingly to increase the numbers. Broken record over here, we can't just look at the overall data. We have to break it down with our student groups. And you can see we are still struggling, especially when you look at our African American, our Pacific Islanders, and our Native Americans, which we are increasing in those areas. We've increased our African American, which we're excited the last 3 years, but we still have a lot of room for growth. This is a pretty alarming one as well, continuing to look at our LCAP groups. Our EL students are still below average when it comes to those chronically absent or chronically truant. But if you focus on our foster care, they're nearly 3 times, or they are 3 times, I'm sorry. And then our special education is 23% compared to 13. So those are some definitely areas that we're focusing on. Hey, great news here. We're showing growth in every column. A lot of our biggest concerns was that PK and TK, which have been extremely low the last few years. And if you ask any of our teachers who are just working their tails off right now, are some of our primary teachers, I truly believe this is part of the issue, is that we had so many students that were not going to PK or coming late to TK. You might notice that we're missing a couple columns. That's because A2A was not recording this at the time. Not sure why, but they were not. So moving forward. Year over year attendance, we This one's always surprising. We kind of rag on our freshmen a little bit. They're freshmen, we need to focus on them. They surprisingly do have the best and really have had the best attendance. The behavior is a different issue, but attendance, they are the top class. So now, kind of shifting gears to behavior, which I do believe attendance and academics and behavior are all intertwined, but our current goals here are really trying to keep students engaged in class. We find even certain teachers at schools or certain the more engaged students are, we tend to have very few discipline. And the opposite happens when they aren't engaged. We really are trying, as the board knows, removing students from the class, removing students from the school, or even the district is really our last resort. There is a time and place for that, but that should be our last resort. That instructional coaching, so building our folks, we have a lot of new teachers, we have a lot of new classified, continuing to build on the people we have instead of hiring. That I know that's a goal with our team. And what's the data showing us? So we have a lot of data sources. We're, like I mentioned, the last year and a half, we've been looking at data at all of our meetings in cabinet, our administrator meetings, principal meetings, AP meetings, my office meetings. So it's been really nice to have that at your fingertips. It also makes it impossible to hide from the data, which I think when you're not looking at that consistently, is just a natural habit that we fall into. So progress, we're about a handful higher this year of out-of-school suspensions. We are lower with in-school suspensions, and we're radically lower with class suspensions. So this kind of breaks down our student groups. So, pretty self-explanatory. This is a tool that we have, and this is updated every Monday. It's also broken down by every school, by in-house, in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, class suspension. So this is at our fingertips at all time, which is really nice to have. And I know our office looks at this every Monday when we meet as a team. But this right here is focusing on the out-of-school suspensions the last three years. And you can see we're slightly up from last year. Actually, we're up more than that, 14, I apologize, but down from the year before. And our students with disabilities are definitely going up from 60, and you really look at that trend, 48 to 63 to 84, which is obviously very worrisome. And I know we've been spending a lot of time the last two cabinet meetings focusing on that. I know special ed's been meeting on this all year. They're working with the sites. I know we're looking at a variety of areas that I know we'll be presenting to the board at a later date, I'm sure. Discipline year over year, our English learners, they've gone up as well, albeit by just 3. And this is an area, the other means of correction, and just so the board knows, other means of correction, think of it as an intervention instead of suspending. So there's so many interventions. A solid teacher will do 100 interventions in a day organically, not even noticing that they're doing it. But the other means are really larger interventions where under Ed Code, which is our law, they should be suspended or can be, but instead we're using other means. So those have skyrocketed. And I will be transparent, I think they're entering them in more, they being the administrators. I do believe we were using other means often last year, but not entering them in. And I know our administrators are doing a better job at that this year.
Good evening, everyone. Operation Graduation is focused on Rancho Cordova as part of our Community Schools Initiative. We have a full-time attendance specialist focused primarily on Kinney and Mills, working on meeting with students and families and removing any barriers we can to success in school and eventually on-time graduation. We have multidisciplinary teams examining current district practices that support on-time graduation and those that we've been doing for a long time that may be getting in the way of on-time graduation. This work has led us to focus on our alternative education programs and making sure that we have the programs that are designed to really meet the needs of our current student population. We're also examining different strategies for academic intervention. This is particularly important as the class of 2024 is back to the 220 credit requirement. And so we have some students that were caught in the gap there when we were at 130 credits during COVID. So we have to do some innovative and different ways of supporting those students and helping them get to the finish line. It's also become really clear to us that we need more intentional transition practices for our kids going from elementary to middle and then middle to high school. And so we are focusing on that. This is definitely a work in progress. We're really excited. And as we're writing our next round of community school grants, we'll be deepening the services and supports to our students and working on this even more next semester. I think this is you, Dr. Huber.
So to wrap up, as you can see, and hopefully it feels like it's been ongoing since last year when we really started this journey together, we really have transitioned to a data district. We actually, a few of us got to spend some time with some SCOE folks, and we were called out a little bit in terms of, wow, it's amazing where Folsom Cordova is now. The two people actually helped us when, right before COVID, we had worked with them with Dr. Collegian, and they were recalling what it was like to sit in a room and talk data with Folsom Cordova. And we were at 0.0 because we really hadn't looked at data the way we're looking at it now. If anything, we looked at, well, what are the grades at the semester? What are maybe suspension rates at the semester? But it was always way down the line, where now we have tools like, to Mr. Meyer's point, where we can look at things in daily or weekly, and we're doing that. So data visibility, and also us being nimble. That's another word that came from COVID, but us being nimble in terms of practices, because what is data showing us and what is data telling us? We are starting to find some bright spots along the way. Obviously, we held steady, or we went back just a little bit. And although there's a lot to celebrate in terms of the fact that, you know, what was spoke to this evening is we're a school district where folks want to come because we do perform even better than the state average or our local districts around us. But that also, again, shines that spotlight on the kids that need more support, on the kids that need more help. We can't be satisfied until all those numbers are at 100%, right? Until every student makes the gains that they need to make. So looking down the road, vetting data analytics, we still are looking at the kind of data that we have in the district, and is that data sound? Because some of the things that we're doing now is calling some things of those into question in terms of, well, we have this data point and it doesn't seem to match this data point. And so it's getting our data also to a point that we know that it's absolutely 100% trustworthy. And we're doing that through the ongoing data validity checks. And, okay, how come it doesn't move for me?
Yeah, it's the last slide.
Oh, I thought we had a question slide. Sorry. All right, well, I'll just say questions.
You could try to keep on pushing the button.
Yeah, really, yeah. It's not working. I want to call out to the team. You might recall our first data presentation a year ago, and I think we've made a lot of progress in terms of how we're presenting. We slimmed the team down, so only it's a huge team that works on this. Ms. Emmington, Ms. Carla Magno, Ms. Cabrera. I mean, we have representatives from special ed, Mr. Story, and Christina's name jumped right out of my head. Royer, thank you. I mean, there is a huge team that meets a few times a month and then gets together other and sub-teams working on this. So it really is exciting in terms of the dedication that the whole team brings. But also, again, we slimmed down because we're trying to get also tight and right with our presentations to the board. So with that, any questions?
All right, questions from the board.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Hooley.
Yeah, just a couple. Actually, the slide that we're on, maybe we can say there. You mentioned that the vetting data analytics, working on our visualization platforms. Are we pulling from several different systems to get all of this data? I know we have a lot of different platforms that are collecting many
yes,
different
we are.
numbers.
But I'll have Ms. Wayan answer that question. So.
We actually do have several different platforms. Obviously, PowerSchool is our student information system and the core piece of our student data. But we have, we're pulling state testing data into our Illuminate platform. We're pulling our diagnostic data from Renaissance and Edmentum into Illuminate, along with some other data sets. And when we say we're vetting data analytics and visualization platforms, is we've kind of plateaued at, it's not giving us everything that we need. So we actually have a team, many of the people that Mr. Huber just described, that's working on looking at some alternate platforms that because we have outgrown what our current platforms can do for us, and we need to identify kind of the next steps for ourselves.
Great. Yeah, looking forward to hearing what you guys come up with that. This is great. I did have just one question about slide 23 with the students with disabilities. Betty Jo, maybe, I don't know if this is a question for you, but a couple questions here. No one, I want to clarify, when we're looking at the numbers on any of these slides, we're talking about individual students. That means they may have been disciplined or suspended once, twice, multiple times, but the number itself represents just one student.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and it is a fairly large jump this year. Do you know right now, does that jump kind of represent ages across the board, or is it concentrated on a particular grade or age level?
So surprisingly, it's actually mostly middle, where we're seeing the biggest jumps in our suspension rate. What's documented there is middle and high school, and there are a couple of schools where we saw some jumps and we started communicating with them right away, which is different than what we're seeing overall across the board, because we're hearing a lot about kindergarten and first and second graders with really significant behaviors, and we're seeing that in special ed as well, and we see that as a reflection of what's happening in general education, but we're not seeing that. We're not seeing our littles be suspended like we are our older students.
Yeah, thank you for that information. Within that middle school age range and high school age range, this is showing just the pure number of students that have been suspended. Are the rates of students with disabilities pretty similar to what they've been in the past years?
We ended the school year just at almost 14% students with disability, students in special education, and with the pending that we have, we expect by December to be at 15%. So we're jumping up quite a bit.
It is moving up, which may explain some of the numbers here. It's still something we're paying attention to.
Yeah, something else that's concerning that doesn't really show there is we have quite a number of students who have over 10 days of suspension. So we're watching that as well.
Okay. Good. Appreciate
Could I jump in real quickly on that too? Because I do want to give special ed kudos to, my office looks through every single suspension in the district. Once they go through every Monday, we look at those. Special education's also looking through all the special education suspensions and all, so working with the schools. So that's a good tool, because we want to know, we don't want to wait till the end of the year to do that, right? It needs early intervention. I also want to say with the general education, we are definitely seeing the increase at the younger students, but a lot of them are not special education. One of our fears is because of maybe learned behavior, not necessarily a disability, but that we might be over-identifying as special ed at a very young age. So it's a very tough situation when we're dealing with 5, 6, 7-year-olds. And it really has jumped up radically. And I mean, our teachers are really, I just want the board to know, our teachers are really working hard, and they're seeing behaviors they've never seen. I think we're really lucky to have Jeanette and Tracy. They've been awesome. We've been working real closely with a teacher suspension and other things to see what we can do. But I just want the board to be aware of that. This is a real challenge we're facing every single day. So,
I just have one last comment, which I just want to thank you guys. Appreciate the work that you're doing, particularly getting together so regularly as a team. I mean, there's all sorts of statistics on school campuses about intervention teams or cost meetings. Just holding the meeting alone, reducing behaviors and suspensions. And I guess I kind of liken what you're doing to that. I mean, paying attention as regularly and as purposefully as you are. It shows us the data, but also, I really believe we'll certainly have a big positive impact on all this data. So thanks for all your work.
Other questions?
I just kind of wanted to echo what Mr. Hui said. You guys have broken down a lot of silos, and that's very, very obvious in this data. And so thank you for all of that work, because pulling data from all different areas and having those conversations isn't always easy, but it looks fantastic, and that is a team effort putting in hard work. So.
Anybody else? I have a couple questions. Slide 5. As they're going to slide 5, first of all, thank you very much for including on the CASP the gender breakdown. So, what's causing this disparity between male and females?
In terms of English language arts,
Yeah.
We know very clearly from the data, anecdotally, as well as, the word just jumped out of my head. What's the opposite of anecdotal? Thank you. Quantitatively, boys struggle with literacy. They have always come to literacy at a slower rate than girls do. And when we became a literacy-based instructional society, basically, which was many years ago, 20 plus years ago, that's when you started seeing a shift around boys struggling in school. And so my doctoral research actually was done in literacy at the secondary level, because I was interested in the same question. And so, you know, we used to have a lot more hands-on learning than we do currently, where now you a lot of times will go into a classroom and the first thing you do is you crack open that textbook. So one of the things that we are talking about, and you're seeing in some of the schools, and we're talking about bringing back to other schools, is some of the more project-based learning approaches to instruction, right? And so that's one of the things we're, in terms of working on direct instruction, first instruction, is we want kids to really be able to get immersed in the instruction. And so, but it's also one of the reasons at the elementary level that we've invested in the letters, because again, a curriculum is great, but you have to build the instructional repertoire of your teachers. And a lot of our teachers, even at the elementary level, you start getting in the 3rd and 4th grade, they aren't as versed as well in teaching literacy the way a kindergarten or a 1st grade teacher is. And so again, that's one of our focuses, is help building the repertoire of our teachers so they're more effective in terms of teaching our students.
So do you feel confident that our strategies that we're deploying right now in kindergarten, 1st, 2nd will over time produce a more even percentage here?
Yeah, I'm extremely hopeful. That's exactly what's going to happen. Again, in terms of my experience at the high school level, we started seeing gains with student achievement when we helped our high school teachers learn how to teach through literacy. Learn how to, literally your social studies teacher got lessons on how do you teach literacy in your classroom. It's same with your science teacher and your math teacher, because that was the barrier, right? That was the barrier in the classroom, is that the kids couldn't interact with the material. And so literally those high school teachers had to become literacy teachers as well as subject area teachers. So the fact that we're getting after that and really building the skill set of our elementary teachers to help, you know, increase those rates at the elementary level before they get into secondary, that's really where we were focusing our attention. Really hard to push that boulder up the hill when you have a student start the middle school 2, 3, 4, 5 grade levels behind in terms of their ability to read. So yeah, I'm very hopeful. I think we're absolutely on the right direction.
All right. If you could go one slide before, slide 4. Just take a mental picture of that and then go to slide 8. You know, I think these slides, first of all, speak to our teachers and the quality of teachers that we have in the district. And I hope and I'm sure you share these slides or these statistics with your team, but it's something that they should definitely be proud of. Obviously, you know, we have room to improve, but it starts, it's nice to see that we're at the top and we can keep on going upwards from there. Then the other question that I have is, I didn't see a gender breakdown on attendance, and I didn't see a gender breakdown on discipline. Do we know what that is?
Yeah, and I apologize to the board. That was my fault. I left those off. My bad. I think that is important data, and in the future we'll have that. But so discipline, when we're talking out of school suspension, it's 185 males compared to 72 females. And Mr. Reed, I'm sure that has some impact when you were talking about test scores and with ELA. In school suspension, it's 30 males compared to 12 females. And then class suspension, it's 93 males compared to 55 males. Or
55
females, I'm sorry. As far as attendance by gender, that was much closer. I do know I have that in an email, but I think we're just a couple percentage points away. So that's actually floated back and forth by a percentage point or two over the years.
With males or females having higher attendance?
It's been both, actually, when we've looked at it. Surprisingly, that's one with the males being behind, obviously with suspension and academics. Attendance has been very even.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. Yeah, and thank you to the team that put all this together. It's very helpful, and I know it's something that the board has been speaking about, wanting more details on, so to keep track of this. And this is very helpful, so I appreciate it. We'll open it, even though it's just discussion. Any public comments on here? I have a question. Sure. Actually, pose the question to the board.
Sure.
Okay, but that's fine. Go ahead.
To your understanding of the data, can you speak to whether the students who are calculated in the other means of correction are also students who have then been suspended out of school?
Does anyone have the ability to answer that question?
So are you asking if they are up there marked as other means, have they been suspended before or after?
The other means leading to then the ultimate out-of-school suspension.
So if it's marked other means, generally they have not been suspended at all. But again, it is progressive. So if intervention A doesn't work and then it's an intervention B, there could be a chance, but I don't have the actual data for that, how many students have had an other means before they're suspended. But I will tell you this, for most suspendable 48900s, which is 98% of our suspensions, 90% of those require other means before we can suspend. And that includes theft, that includes K defiance, that includes not assault. So there are, we don't have a choice. That's the law, that we have to have documented other means before we suspend. And it's also the same way with teachers, with class suspensions. They also, 99% of teacher suspensions are K. So, and I have to believe 99% of our teachers do other means, but I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. All right, any questions online? All right, well, thank you again for that item. All right, that takes us to item 14, the superintendent's report. Superintendent.
Thank you. And I also want to share thanks to our curriculum instruction and data team for uplifting our students, and really our vision as well as empowering all students to thrive through educational excellence. And most importantly, all those with boots on the ground at our school sites, our teachers, our support staff, our leadership, because truly it is a team effort. And to be able to have these tools in our hands and the folks at our school sites to use this data on a daily basis is changing the landscape and helping us, again, uplift our vision for all students. I also want to re-congratulate our new principal at Cordova High School, Amy Strawn. One thing that we didn't talk about tonight is with that announcement being made, what's the timeline now for filling the Mitchell Middle School principal position, because that's currently an interim principal too. And I thought it'd be helpful to share that timeline. We're anticipating to post that position for the principal of Mitchell Middle School immediately. because we'd like to have a principal in that position as soon as possible, but we'll do the same outreach to our community, to our staff, to our students to get the feedback and the input of characteristics they're looking for in their principal. And then we'll be holding interviews, hopefully before the winter break, and if all goes smoothly, we will hopefully have a new principal at Mitchell that we can introduce after the first, if not before the winter break, after the first of the year. So that's our goal there. And then this week, we also had the pleasure of dedicating one of our modernized facilities at Folsom Middle School after a very long time and committed and dedicated employee of our district, Mr. Robert Mang. And we did the dedication ceremony this week, and it was just a joy to see Mr. Mang and his family and community and staff all come together in celebration of, you know, the legacy that Mr. Mang has left and will continue to leave now that the building has been named the Robert Mang Recreational Facility. And I know there was a great appreciation from Mr. Mang to all of the board. And I also want to share my thanks and gratitude to our facilities team who helped make that happen, and communications, and everybody at Folsom Middle. From those that stood on the roof to drop the tarp to everybody who made all the details happen behind the scenes. I also want to reiterate the thanks to our parents that came to our November 4th Parents Summit held at Rancho Cordova Elementary. This is probably one of the biggest attended summits that we've had, but I bet we could double that when we meet again in February. And as Ms. Cabrera said, our focus will be on the data and the feedback on our LCAP and our funding and our programs. So put that on your calendar. It's a Saturday, starts at 8:30. And I also want to publicly thank our labor partners for their collaboration, FCEA, CSEA, FCLA, working together. And with that, I wish all of our employees and our students and our families a wonderful week next week, celebrating the blessings that we have, family and friends, and hopefully some time to take off and rest a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to board member reports, item 15. So we'll start with the student board members. Board member Melajor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So first I want to thank the curriculum instruction team again for today's presentation on the district's vital signs. It's really important that we collect and understand and interpret this data to best determine our needs for this district. And so today I was actually at Folsom Middle School. I was with my master guitar class from Vista. You may know Mr. Martini. The superintendent had a video about him a couple months back. And it was just really interesting to kind of interact and support these middle school students through music. And I got to perform and sing for them along with my peers. And the reason I bring this up is that Folsom Middle School has changed since the last time I stepped on this campus. I was graduated there, class of 2020, the COVID class. And I noticed in the lunchrooms, there are so many more students there than went back in 2019, 2020, in all grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And when we're talking about constructing new schools, we have to consider middle and high schools, not just elementary schools. And the concerns of school overcrowding is especially important. We could be looking at 2,000 students at Folsom Middle School in two to 5 years. And that just makes me a bit concerned because the population at my own school, Vista, is roughly 1,700. So a 2,000 person middle school is just insane to think about. And there are roughly 460 people in my class of 2024, but in the incoming freshman class, the class of 2027, there's upwards of 500 students. So this population growth and this increase in students will continue to rise throughout the years. And so I want to bring it back to the plan that we discussed at August 10th's board meeting regarding building new schools. And the new school timeline is that in 2021, we constructed Mangini Ranch. In 2024, we'd have Alder Creek. And 2026 through 29, we'd have the district support building, the Folsom Plan Area's 3rd elementary school, the phase 1 of our Folsom Plan Area's high school, as well as Rio del Oro's 1st elementary school. And it continues to have elementary schools built in Folsom and eventually more elementary schools built, middle schools and high schools built on the Rio del Oro side. And the reason I bring that up is that the 2026 through 2029 plan is contingent and it depends on that Measure M funds will deplete by 2029, and that the state facilities bond will pass, meaning that this district will be reimbursed for Alder Creek so that we can build Rio del Oro's first elementary school. And that kind of reinforces the important part that we need to manage our finances very well. And the way that we construct our schools, what we include in our schools, important things and technology versus the glass walls that some individuals brought up earlier today, that's important to consider. And so we need to launch into conversation. I agree that we need to have individuals from both communities, we need to come together and really discuss the individual needs of each community because they know best. They live there. They understand the needs of their children. And that's all I'm gonna say regarding that. We're gonna have so much more discussion regarding the Folsom planned area and the Rio del Oro construction in later board meetings, especially in January. But I also wanna talk about why students from Vista Del Lago are here. And for those of you who didn't know is that my AP government class, Mr. Hess is my teacher. We took on the role of doing the civic action project. It's called the CAP. And he essentially instructed us to find an issue in our local community, whether it be our school, our district, or just our city in general, and take it on. And I want to recognize that these students, they have constantly showed up to board meetings, they've done their research, they've prepared speeches, and they advocated. And this continuous advocacy is what I believe is the future of our students. And I implore that this district really listen to what these students have to say. And I want to see what all these students are saying at future items on the agenda. So I want a motion for that. And lastly, I want to wish everyone a really happy holiday season, kind of enjoy this time with your family and just relax. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Board Member Merrow.
Thank you. I'd like to give a quick shout out to the Vista students that were here today, speak about the problems in our student community. I know it's a very daunting task to get up on that little podium and speak on any day, especially with hundreds of people here. That was the biggest turnout I've seen. That wasn't just all teachers. I look forward to replacing Columbus Day on our calendars with Indigenous Peoples Day and beginning to look at changing the stigmatism around Native American history in general and, you know, shifting away from the whitewash version that me and Matthew were taught in elementary school. I also look forward to providing our students with quality menstrual products. I think it's a great topic that our student advisory board could work with in our subcommittees, and that we know we can help the board push it out through our SAV. I'm not going to comment on the SFID 3 issue yet because I know there's a dedicated meeting to the topic later in the year. If someone could remind me when exactly that date is, that would be great. And I wish everyone a restful and well-deserved Thanksgiving break. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Board Member Lofthouse.
I also wanted to thank the students from Vista who came to speak about their concerns. It is one of our most important jobs to hear student voice and be the voice of students. So I appreciate them. Please tell your government teacher to keep sending students. And I would love to see students from everywhere sharing what is important to them. Thank you for all the parents speaking about SFID 3. We do have a meeting dedicated to it. I look forward to seeing ideas generated from that grassroots effort of the two sides kind of coming together and communicating and coming up with ideas. We are an open book in terms of bringing ideas to us and making sure that our students are all getting what they need when they need it. Congratulations to Ms. Cadell for receiving and very much earning the CTE Administrator of the Year Award for California. And good luck to both Folsom High School and Vista tomorrow night for their big football games. And lastly, wishing everyone a happy and restful Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Board Member Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President. Couple of things. I want to applaud both student groups from Vista that came out, and the first one, and I can kind of resonate with that because being a single father to a daughter who was going through the female thing, and she would come home and complain to me, and it was like, wait, what? I didn't understand, and I actually had to have a neighbor take her to the store and teach her all that stuff. But yeah, I agree that we need to explore having quality feminine products at the schools, at all schools, because I remember Christina telling me, Dad, that stuff is garbage. And it's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about, but, you know, we'll work it out. So I applaud them for coming out and speaking out about that. Indigenous Peoples Day, the conversation is going to continue, folks, and we're going to have to discuss it and do something as a board about it. But while we're at it, I think one of the things that we need to also look at is maybe looking at a committee to rename a facility, a school site, i.e. Sutter Middle. We all know that, well, as history would have it, John Sutter literally destroyed indigenous communities. I know Sac City did it. Maybe we need to look at that as well. Congratulations to Alicia. I had the opportunity to go to that dinner, support her on that. Job well done. Ms. Cabrera, thank you for a wonderful parent summit. And I'm stealing your idea for my staff at work on the cupcake thing. I mean, that was amazing. Also had the opportunity to go to each session and just actually hear what the parents had to say. I think it was very important that we do listen to them and talk about their needs in the community. With that being said, go Vista, go Folsom. I did both last week. I think I'm just going to settle on Folsom this week. So I look forward to a good football game. That's it.
Thank you. Board Member Larrett.
Yeah, actually, Board Member Merrill and I were hanging out with the mock kids today, and similar experience to what we had with our students who are presenting here tonight. They bring some of the best ideas to us, and highlight a lot of things where we can improve, things that are going great. One thing that they were discussing today that I thought was an interesting thing was that sometimes when kids are acting out, it's stressors and things like that, and they thought that maybe we could add some components into our health curriculum that would help deal with like maybe some anger management issues and different things like that. So, I thought that was like an intriguing idea. So the other thing that they kind of brought forth, would it be cool to have every student at least one time during the year meet with their counselor so that they could establish a relationship? Because some of them felt like if they did need to go to see a counselor, if they haven't seen that counselor before or communicated with them, that they would maybe be less likely to go see their counselor. So, maybe there's some room there that we could also, kind of work with that if that's maybe a possibility. So just enjoyed hanging out with them. I got to hang out with some of our students from Rancho Cordova up at Coloma for Pioneer Days, and we did some candle dipping and some biscuit making on a stick and different things like that. So that was pretty cool. Wanted to congratulate Ms. Strawn on her new position, and we're very excited to have her as a Lancer. Also, just wanted to congratulate Ms. Cadell. I mean, the work that she does and how she has furthered our education in our FCUSD is remarkable, and that hard work. And, writing a grant, I've written a few, it is not for the faint of heart. So anybody who has done it, will know. I mean, and to be able to bring that kind of money into the district to really be able to work with these programs is like amazing. Did also want to thank all of our parents who came out tonight. It's a very hot subject. It's very emotional. These are our children, and really appreciate the community wanting to reach out for both sides to be able to collaborate. And I think that there's a very big opportunity there, that if we can kind of get everyone to the table, that we can come up with some really good solid ideas as we move forward. So did also want to reiterate, because it was kind of out there on Facebook and things like that, there will be not a formal vote, that we will be making firm decisions on January. So wanted to put the public's mind at ease that we're not official voting on anything. Wanted to thank our labor partners. I know that you guys have worked very diligently, and wanted to thank you for all your hard work for that as well. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you. Let's see, Board Member Hui.
Yeah, thank you. Also want to say congrats to Ms. Strawn, and also congrats to her kids for being super patient and waiting that out. That was amazing. And they had some great sweaters on. I also appreciate the input tonight from our parents who showed up. I know there were some comments about towards transparency and not knowing what was coming up with some of these discussions. I think we always need to do a better job getting the word out there. We have a team that does work really hard on that, and we're definitely attempting to do that. So I just did want to call out that team. This week we did have a meeting at Mangini Ranch a couple of nights ago about the boundary issues that we're going to have to be revising as Alder Creek comes in there. So had a decent turnout. I want to thank Mr. Washburn, you and your team for all your work on that. Angela, for you and your team. Thank Kanan Peterson for all of his hospitality at Mangini Ranch, and for the caregivers that came out to that meeting. We have a lot of work to do in terms of creating our boundaries south of 50. So appreciate the patience of the parents and the information that I hope they are sending in. I know there's some surveys out. And do want to ensure parents, we will get information to you as soon as we can and as thoroughly as we can. But it's definitely a process. But, just did want to call out our team that was there. And also certainly Ms. Parrington, who's the new principal at Alder Creek. Really appreciated her words and her vision for the school. So there are a lot of wonderful things happening south of 50. We have a lot to work on to make sure that things do make sense for everybody, and we'll be doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I would also like to thank Alicia Cadell. You have to sit here and think about this for a second. She won the CTE Administrator of the Year. We're not talking about Sacramento County. We're not talking about Northern California. We're talking about the entire state of California. And when you take into consideration the number of the population, I think what are we at, 39 million in the state, but you take into account the number of school districts, the number of people that have similar roles in their school districts. I mean, what an honor it is to Ms. Cadell, but also what an honor it is to FCUSD to have Ms. Cadell being an employee at our district. Again, many thanks to and congratulations to Alicia Cadell. I also want to thank the parents that came tonight. I guess tonight we were a little heavy on the Folsom side. We seem to go back and forth on that. But the one thing that resonates no matter which group of parents are here is they're all very passionate about their child's education. And that's completely understandable. I mean, it's personal, right? It's your kids. I appreciate when the Rancho parents are here. I appreciate when the Folsom parents are here. And just know that we take this responsibility very seriously, and we are doing our best to make sure that we thoughtfully move forward with the remaining $540 million that we have for school construction. We welcome the input. We're always looking for ideas. As I've challenged the superintendent and her staff, I will be very disappointed if I don't see a plethora of ideas on our January meeting. I want to be overwhelmed with ideas. And obviously welcome the community input, because you know what? We don't have all the solutions potentially. Maybe someone has an idea out there that we haven't thought about. So please keep on sharing that with the board, with staff. I would also like to recognize the individual who spoke about the glass walls in the artwork and everything else that we have. I think he called it the bells and whistles. You know, I've been talking about these glass walls since 2016, before I was even elected to the board. I don't need to get into it again, but I agree with the gentleman 100%. We need to stop looking at these bells and whistles and you know, look at like good old-fashioned walls that the teachers can actually hang pictures on and put stuff on, rather than these glass walls that with, you know, with partitions that open and close that, quite frankly, we don't utilize that often. I won't say never, but not often. So I appreciate that gentleman speaking up on that. Let's see. Happy Thanksgiving. I agree with our board members who said relax, enjoy. I guess eat a lot of tryptophan and take some naps. And then I guess finally, this is my last regular board meeting as president. So I hope I was fair. I hope I ran an okay meeting. And I apologize for all the ums. It's one of those things that I've been battling since I was a kid. And I don't know, maybe I need an electric shock collar that like buzzes me each time I say But anyway, I look forward to being able to sit on one of these sides and not have to wait to the very end to make comments. It's one, if you go back a couple of years, I love to make a lot of comments, and it's one of those things where you have to be patient and wait to the very end to make comments. So anyway, happy Thanksgiving, and let's finish out with advanced planning. The next board meeting is a special workshop meeting. It's on a Saturday. Saturday, December 9th, 2023. I want to make this notice right now. I know the superintendent or staff is also going to make this notice. That meeting will not be broadcast. It is a public meeting, however, so the public is invited to attend that meeting, but it's more of a workshop, and it's a workshop that gets into potentially conversations that we have someone who's someone that the district has retained to kind of have the board kind of work on developing team leadership or teamwork, and it may include, you know, talking about, you know, things that are personal to us that sometimes having video cameras doesn't elicit an open conversation. Heartfelt conversation among the board members. So the feeling was, which was apparently a best practice, we were told, that all of the individuals that do this programming on behalf of the California School Boards Association strongly recommends that those meetings are not to be broadcast. But that doesn't mean it's not a public meeting. It is, so you're more than welcome to attend that. Then we have a special board study session meeting. Remind me what that one is, Superintendent.
December 12th, we're planning to bring back more information from our demographer on schools, capacities, and looking at our current bond again and future bond programs, specifically in SFID 3. So it's the beginning of, it's not the end, but we have more in-depth information to share at that point in time.
Okay, all right. And that one will be broadcast. Actually, all of our meetings are broadcast except for that one on Saturday. And then we have our next regular board meeting, which is December 14th, 2023, where we elect the new leadership of the board. So that takes us to the 12-month board calendar. The dates are there for your reference. And that takes us to suggested future agenda items. They are listed there. Is there anything else that folks would like to discuss?
Mr. President, I have to the students at Vista del Lago the menstrual products as well as the decibel policy for the performances.
Okay, everybody's okay with that? Yeah. All right, I do want to learn more about that. I didn't realize we were having concerts or playing music at lunch hour. That was new to me. So I'm glad the students showed up for that. Any other items? Okay, then that takes us to item 17, 18, 19, and 20, and we handled all of our issues in closed session at the first closed session, so we can skip those, and that will take us to adjournment. And unless there's any objections, we will adjourn by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Hearing none, we are adjourned.